Friday night game, 1:10 game times on Saturday and Sunday, and then after that they will hit the road for a 3-game series against the Angels, and then they will fly back home to host the Yankees for 4 games next weekend. That's where we'll be talking baseball again. The quick Twins analysis or quick Twins positivity, for the week here, because we've been talking about the negatives all year, and it's easy to know what the negatives are. They haven't really changed a whole lot. We do have some new positives since the last times we were talking baseball. Both Byron Buxton and Max Kepler are up in the big leagues again, and they're both actually doing fairly well this time. Buxton is performing better at the plate, and Kepler is not sucking, which I never saw him get an opportunity that he failed at when he was sent down the first time. But anyway, those two youthful pieces in our outfield are actually performing quite nicely right now, and that is very encouraging for Twins fans. Also, our mandatory all-star, because every team has to have one, our mandatory all-star at the moment is shortstop Nunez, who just, I don't know what made this happen, but he just all of a sudden figured it out here in Major League Baseball. So I've heard a lot of people talking, well, should we try and trade him since we need a lot of pieces or whatever while he's got value, and we weren't kind of invested into him anyway? And my saying to that is, no freaking way, are you kidding me? Like, we finally got a fairly young guy who can start at shortstop every day for us and is adequate both at the plate and in the field. Like, we haven't had that for years upon years upon years. I don't know that we've had that since Greg Gagne, and it's not like shortstop's an important position or anything. It's an extremely important position, arguably the most important after pitcher. So we love that we've got a shortstop that's performing. Do not trade him, okay? Under any circumstances, the guy you need to trade, especially the second that Sano gets healthy again, so that we can avoid this whole forcing him in the outfield nonsense that has not worked, will not work, is we need to trade Trevor Plouffe. We shouldn't have re-signed him to begin with, unless the intent was to trade him, because that was a more likely way of gaining assets than just trying to sign him in free agency. We need to trade Trevor Plouffe in the worst way. We need to package at least one arm with him as well. I prefer it to be Nolasco. If it is Phil Hughes, I'd even be okay with that, considering the amount of money he gets paid. If it was a Gibson or a Mays, I'm totally cool with that. I don't really want Santana traded, and I definitely don't want Duffy traded. You can't trade Barrios. Any of those other mediocre arms, though, yeah, get them out of here, okay? So Twins need to focus. There's just two things. With where the season is at now, Twins have two focuses, okay? One, commit to the young talent, okay? Fully commit to these young pieces that you've brought in to be the building blocks of the present and the future. You ride them out through their ups and downs, knowing that the downs are at least coming with invaluable learning experience. Okay, you've got to commit to Buxton in center, no matter how he's playing. You got to commit to Kepler up on the main roster. You got to get Rosario back up here and commit to him being a part of what's going on. You've got to commit to putting Miguel Sano at a place that he is capable and comfortable playing at. That would be third base or DH. Okay? So there is your primary focus. And then your secondary focus is getting rid of this high expense, low return, dead weight that is just littering this team's roster. And can we please start with Trevor Plouffe and try and throw in Ricky Nolasco? Like, we'll even take less if we can throw in Ricky Nolasco. Like, let's say, for example, we could trade Plouffe for a number 3 in the rotation starting pitcher. If you'll take Nolasco as well, we'll settle for a 5th in the rotation starting pitcher. You can drop us down 2 spots. Like, we'll take less to give you more of our garbage. because that's the worst part of it all. If we don't commit to our youth on this team and they get them to pan out, it's not going to get any better for a long time because we were so contractually locked up and handcuffed in these horrible deals that we made. The Nolasco deal, the Plouffe deal, the list goes on and on. We don't have enough time to sit here and go through them all. That's a different show for a different day. But point being, the Twins have pieces in place to at least turn the ship around. We're not getting it to shore this year, okay? But we can at least turn it around and get it sailing in the right direction, and hopefully be able to then continue that. But we've got to, like I said, there's only two things we got to focus on for the Twins for the whole rest of the season. The season is a wash, okay? Cut your losses and do what you can to minimize, the damage and the turnaround period, okay? And that is committing to your youth and cutting the dead weight. It's that simple. Make it happen, Twins. All right. So, boom. 2 topics left to go here. We got a tiny bit of NFL football, some pro wrestling, and then, of course, we'll close this show as we do every week with our Balls Deep Thought of the Day, where we try to revisit something that we've talked about in the show and just go as balls deep, philosophically as we possibly can on it, and just close with a thinker of some kind, whether it be a question or a definitive answer, some kind of strong thinker. All right, so we are here in the world of the NFL on Balls Deep Sports Talk, and pretty much the only little bit of news we have is Vikings related. Let's start out with me. And news that includes both me and the Minnesota Vikings. As of course you're all very well aware of by now, I have the wonderful honor of not only doing this podcast every week, but also working for a Vikings fan website where I am allowed the opportunity to conduct phone interviews with both former Minnesota Vikings and sometimes current Minnesota Vikings. And it's an absolute joy. It's a dream job as a lifelong Vikings fan who lived his whole life here in Minnesota. Last week I ended up doing 2 monster interviews. So this week we decided to take it easy. We didn't book one. Hopefully I'm sure we'll be back up at it next week. We'll have our regular at least once a week interview next week. But so for this week I wanted everybody to take the opportunity to go on to VikingsDigitalDiaries.com, the website that I'm working for, and check out both of last week's interviews that I did. I got to interview former Minnesota Viking defensive back Corey Fuller, and that was just a fantastically fun interview for me. And then a few days before that, I got to interview the current Vikings defensive line coach, Andre Patterson, which is my favorite interview of the 20-some all awesome interviews I've done so far. It was literally my favorite one of them all yet to this point. So please, if you're a Vikings fan and you have not done so yet, make sure to go on to VikingsDigitalDiaries.com sometime this week and catch up on those 2 interviews that I did last week. Now, in the actual Vikings news, we are 2 weeks here through OTAs or organized team activities to the lay person. Lots of reports coming out from Vikings camp. Reports on how good Cordero Patterson looks, best he's ever looked, whatever that's supposed to mean. Reports on how much more impressive Danielle Hunter looks physically even than he did last year. Reports on how well Teddy is looking this year. Reports on AP showing up, for the first time. He doesn't show up to OTAs. He's been there the whole time. So, all kinds of talkers, and really it's all hearsay. What did we hear last year at this time? Oh, first-round draft pick Trey Waynes is amazing. Yeah, how'd that work out last year? I'm a Trey Waynes fan. I'm still on the Trey Waynes bandwagon. I want and expect Trey Waynes to start opposite Xavier Rhodes this season, week 1 and every week. That is what I want and what I expect. I'm rooting for Trey Waynes, and all the film I graded last year, which was every player, every play, every game, I am a nut like that, okay? I did that. Trae Waynes actually had a pretty good rookie season in all the times he was put out onto the field. And he had the work ethic and the attitude and personality to go out as a first-round draft pick who didn't start, and did not see the field much at all on defense throughout the entire season, to take it upon himself to be an impact player on special teams and lead the team in special teams tackles. So I trust what this guy's got in his heart, first and foremost. I don't think any of it's effort issue. I also don't think it's intelligence issue, although that could be it. He might just be overthinking everything. And that might have been his issues and might still be an issue. But I do not want Terrence Newman seeing the field on this Vikings team at all. Anybody who thinks he had a really good year last year, you're wrong. He did not have a really good year last year. He was the biggest liability on our defense for the first half of the season. And then he finally started to come around a little bit, made some plays, had a few decent games here and there, but he by no means had a good season. Okay, the only reason he was on the field was because the guy who was supposed to be, that being Trae Waynes, wasn't ready. So this year we need Trae Waynes to be ready. We want Mackenzie Alexander to come in and battle with Captain Munnerlyn for that nickel slot, hopefully lock in as the dime. And then, Newman is just a veteran depth guy. That's all we really want to be asking of Terrence Newman. Anything more, we're setting ourselves up for failure. The guy's a great guy, but he can't run with a frickin' turtle anymore, let alone an NFL 6'5" wide receiver on the outside in the red zone. But anyway, I got sidetracked. Point being is we're not putting hardly any stock whatsoever into what people are saying players are looking like this time at Vikings OTAs. We're not putting really any stock into that at all. The one piece of actual news that is real and has some effect, and we can talk about here real quick, is the Vikings finally signing all-world Pro Bowl safety Harrison Smith to a new contract extension. And it just so happens that his new contract extension makes him the highest paid safety in the entire NFL. Now, is Harrison Smith the best safety in all of football? Is he better than Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas, Eric Berry? I don't know. You're talking top 5 with Harrison Smith. I don't know that you're talking the absolute best, and especially when you consider his injury history. However, this new contract guarantees him that he will get paid regardless of injury, both next year and in 2018 as well. But some of those guarantees result in lower cap numbers than what he's actually getting paid. Like, for example, this next season, he's going to make $15 million is what he's getting paid. But he's only counting his $10 million against the salary cap. And by the way, he demanded, his agent, his camp demanded that he be the highest paid safety in all of football, or he would not sign the contract extension. That was any contract you write up for me needs to have me as the highest paid player in the entire league, or I won't even look at it and consider signing it. I find that a little off-putting, a little surprising, and not quite accurate, I don't think, in my estimate. But that being said, Harrison Smith might be the most valuable safety to any team in football. He just needs to be on the field. I hate this much money into a guy that is missing games every year of his entire career, and especially someone who's flying around as crazy and fast, lowering his head and just colliding with people as often as Harrison Smith does. So don't be surprised within the next 1 to 3 years this deal is biting us in the butt because we've got a dude getting paid tons of money who ain't on the field because he's hurt. If he can avoid injury, this is a great deal and he's worth every penny, and I like the signing very much. So whether it's a good deal for the Vikings or not ultimately comes down to the health of Harrison Smith. Nothing else. It's that simple. If Harrison Smith is healthy for the next 5 years, the length of the deal, yeah, it was a great deal. He was worth every penny. You take the